One of our gCADPlus users based in the Republic of Ireland and who specialises in reusing materials and environmentally sensitive work has asked for some help in a number of issues. The first issue he raises is he's trying to put a row of header bricks working around a circle centred here. And you can see the header bricks are not working the way they should. If I select one of these and use the distance tool and I click here, so the brick is 200 by 100. So in order to get a header brick to use a polar array and array the bricks around a circle, we need to make a block. If I select it here, you can see it's simply a polyline. So your first step, if you want to do this sort of work, is to make a block. So let's do that. I'll switch to a layer called header brick and we'll make it current, and I'll draw a rectangle. Anywhere out here will do, and as I drag away, we can use polar coordinates to set this. We can say we're going to draw a rectangle at 200 units in the X direction and 100 units in the Y direction, and there we are. And if I select it, it's on that layer. The next, and if I select it, notice we've got a central point here. So what I'll do now is make a block of it, but make the base point of that block sitting in the center, and then we'll move it into this position here, and we should be able to array it. Well, I've selected the rectangle here. I've made color 42. It's 200 by 100, so I'm checking myself as we go. I've set transparency to 200, just softening that dark color a little. We're trying to get this brick to roughly look like a recycled brick, but it's still one entity. It's not going to take up much space at all in the drawing database. I've said it's filled, and I've said it has a border, and I've set the border color to 251. That means if we click away from there, you can see there's a nice edge to the brick. So now it's a matter of making a block of it. So we'll drag and select, right click, create a block. I'm in favor of saying 200 times 100 recycle. Now the crucial thing is to get the spelling right. Not that it's not C-Y. If I could spell, it would be better. That's better. We need the pick point in here, and there's our preview. So we want it converted to a block, and we say OK. Now when we pick it, it is definitely a block. The next step is now to position it. So we can pick it up by its midpoint. We're going to put it somewhere here so that it spins around. I think we could safely here, after all, we're demonstrating how this might work. We can set it at the intersection. Actually, we'll copy it with that as a base point, and we'll pick intersection of that one there, and it hasn't picked it up. Let me just check my settings, put object snap on, and just for the moment we'll leave it at intersection. Okay, so we're going to copy. Let's try again. Copy from there to that point. So of course this is a leader. We don't have an intersection there, so we better put in fact that would that leader line is of course at an angle. So we now need a new line drawn from the center of one of these circles. So we'll say from the center there, and with polar on, we can draw a line across like so. Now we can copy our recycled brick, and this time it should find the intersection, and it does. So one can get caught very easily when trying to do this sort of work. Our next step is to run the array tool. So draw let's modify, of course, the array is down here somewhere, the array tool. So we're going to run a polar array, and we can pick a center point, which is in fact the center of any one of the circles because they are all concentric. But we have to work out the number of items and the angle to fill. Now that is just a little, I'll cancel from there. That requires a little bit of calculations, doesn't it? My feeling would be that we take this arc, which I've highlighted, and that's the path, if you like, of where we want the paving bricks. You can see from the earlier attempt, we didn't get it right, and the pavers don't sit properly. I've moved our paver block down here, but I've done a little bit of adjustment to it. If we take a look at the block, we'll assume we're going to do a 5mm gap on each side, making a 10 between them, and the distance we have to copy between the blocks is going to be 110, so I'll put a little dimension on there. So we're gathering some information. We know the total length of the arc at 13353. We know the angle of inclusion of it, the total angle 22539, and we now know the spacing between the bricks. So based on that information, we will make a first stab at trying to calculate the number and indeed the angle between the bricks. So we'll see how we go. We very rarely get this right on the first attempt. Before we start, let's have a stab at the angle. We're going to, as the bricks are rotated around, this first one starts at one angle, and I've put it horizontally, but then if we select this one, a rotation angle of 2 to me looks about right, and this is 0, so we've got a rotation angle of 2. So let's now see how we go on our first attempt. It's probably useful to set some sort of temporary layer. So let's make we'll just leave it at layer 1, and we'll make it current. Here's layer 1 over here. The reason to do that is that if we get it wrong, we don't just have to undo some 121. If we take 13,352 divided by 110, I get 121. So we've got 121 bricks, angle 225. So let's now try modify. So let's now use the array command, polar array, selecting the objects. We pick our paver, hit enter. Our center point, we use object snap to come to that center point. We've got 121 and 225 to fill. The angle between them we've just worked out to be 2, so we'll just change that until we get the opportunity to put that in. So we'll take 2. So our investigation and calculations give us 121, fill that, 225, rotate them as we go, put a little angle between them, and we'll go OK. and well, we nearly got it right. And we can, of course, we're going to have to do a cut over here, and so I'm relatively happy with that. And so I hope we've shown our designer how to put in those header bricks. We just copy that one at about that angle, and then explode this and trim it all to show a cut. So we've got quantity and the design looks fine. So that could be removed or just moved onto a layer. It's often very useful to put it on a layer rather than erase things. You can always hide a layer and come back and work on the designs and return to it if you need it. So that's a quick look at the array command. You do need to do a little bit of calculations and care to get it right.